It's now my great pleasure to introduce Baroness Ruth Deech. Ruth was until very recently a chair of the Bar Standards Board, responsible for regulating barristers, and she has had an illustrious career. Before she was even named as a crossbench peer in the House of Lords, and whilst chairing the Human Fertilisation and I knew I'd have trouble with this word, Embryology Authority, Ruth was named as the 107th most powerful person in Britain by The Observer. Well, as all lawyers know, with great power comes great responsibility, something you exemplify, Ruth. And I hope will be a great inspiration to the lawyers sitting before you today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Baroness Ruth Deech.
Thank you, Frances. This list of the powerful that you just mentioned reminded me that my position on it was one below David Beckham and one above Anne Widdecombe. Not altogether a comfortable position to be in. Congratulations to the new Chartered Legal Executive Lawyers and graduates. And congratulations to the parents who are here today, the parents and the loved ones, because I'm sure the parents have suffered just as much as their offspring to bring you to this day, not to mention the bank of mum and dad, but it's all been worth it. You are at the forefront of opening up the legal services sector to improve diversity and improve access to justice. On the one hand, this is a grim period for lawyers. On the other, there are increased opportunities for chartered legal executive lawyers, as the previous speakers said, right across the range. And you are qualified. What a wonderful word that is. Now, I studied law. I qualified to be a barrister, but I didn't follow a traditional path. First of all, my personality was wrong. I'm not impartial enough. Give me a legal problem and I immediately decide one side is right and the other side is wrong, and there's no budging me. And you can't do that if you're going to be a lawyer, let alone an advocate. I also thought, when I was young and thinking of going on into the profession, I thought that I needed money and contacts. I was probably wrong, because some of my friends from modest backgrounds did make it to be barristers, but I was deterred at that stage, thinking that I needed money and contacts. But what happened to me was that I learned about all the other professions open to those who studied law. And I ended up as a teacher helping generations of women students. And then when my college changed from being all women into a mixed college, we had women and boys, and I helped the boys into the legal profession as well. As has been mentioned, I was once the chair of the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority. In fact, although I'm not that keen on regulation, if anything moves, they always ask me to regulate it for some reason. Well, when I was chair of the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, I was very involved with the ethical questions about embryos and fetuses and birth that have exercised mankind for centuries. I was asked for my attitude to the question, when is an embryo viable? When does the soul enter the body? To which my answer has always been, when it's qualified as a lawyer. I have had the pleasure, when I regulated the BSB, I've had the pleasure of meeting Frances Edwards and knowing Diane Burley and working with Ian Watson and Alan Kershaw. And I can tell you that they've all been greatly admired in all sections of the legal profession for the way in which they've developed CILEx and led it to the grant of a royal charter from the Queen in 2012. I also know Mandy Lavin from her time at the BSB. And I'm delighted that you've acquired someone so knowledgeable, so lively, and so committed to diversity to help you on into the next phase. Isn't it nice to have all these outstanding women leading and regulating the legal profession, as well as being lawyers? I want to talk to you about the opportunities that lie ahead and also the threats. There's a good fairy and a bad fairy. You are joining a great profession where the barriers between the formerly silo-encased professionals is breaking down, where the rigid entry qualifications are becoming flexible. You yourselves represent this revolution in the provision of legal services. The first CILEx members have received independent practice rights. They can become partners in their firms and handle work that was previously reserved. Chartered legal executives can set up their own law firms, as has been said. It is widely believed that many more clients will go to legal executives if they can show, that is, the legal executives can show, that they are utterly reliable and more affordable. How will you demonstrate your trustworthiness? As a former regulator, I can tell you from experience that no amount of rules and disciplinary actions will keep you on the path of integrity, not as much as the watchfulness of your fellow lawyers. Nobody is more anxious to uphold the proper behaviour and integrity of fellow lawyers than other lawyers, because it is a collegiate profession where people know each other, rely on each other, at least by reputation, and the failing of one is regarded as the failing of all and a blow to the profession. So respect your regulator, love your regulator, your best friend. You in CILEx are at the cutting edge of an ancient and proud profession. You represent social mobility because of your different backgrounds and non-traditional entries into the profession. Maybe you are mature with another career behind you. Maybe you were an assistant in a legal office and became fascinated with the discipline and the strategies. Maybe you wanted to learn as you work and not take a degree. All of this diversity amounts to the raising of the flag of rebellion to the Lord Chancellor. His cuts might have had the effect of deterring many graduates from taking on family and criminal work because there's no legal aid and no way to earn a modest living in order to pay off student debts. And this may well mean that in 30 years' time, there will be protests against the lack of diversity in the judiciary, because a whole generation of altruistic solicitors and barristers has been lost. But if legal executives continue the progress they have so strikingly made in the last decades, you may be the ones rising to the judiciary and keeping it representative of the population of this country. Yes, you too can rise to become judges, and this has already happened in the ranks of CILEx. The whole world of the legal profession is open to you. Law is changing. The forces of legal aid cuts, alternative business structures, new demands from clients, globalization, court fees, the blurring of lines between the different branches of the profession, different routes of entry, and above all, new technology and the ability to carry out transactions either for yourself as a client or online in a mass production way by you. All of these mean that I cannot foresee what law practice will be like in 10 or 20 years' time, and maybe you cannot either. So do look at a wider range of legal jobs. Keep flexible. Consider government legal service, being a company lawyer, be a policy lawyer in regulation. Consider being a teacher, a journalist, a draftsman, clerking in Parliament, reforming law at the Law Commission. Even, like me, try politics with the aim of becoming Lord Chancellor, if we desperately need a qualified lawyer there. Today, there is also a cloud over your graduation. I am asking whether our proud profession is under threat. I'm concerned about your jobs and your future, about the independence of the legal profession, and public access to justice in this year of the Magna Carta anniversary, and whether the rule of law and the English legal system have a champion, as they need to have, in the form of the Lord Chancellor. This is my worry list. I deplore the cuts in legal aid. The government has been trying to cut 250 million a year. Remember, we were able to spend £11 billion on the Olympics. Umpteen billions are being set aside for HS2. 600 million was stockpiled for flu pills that were never used, and I'm sure you've all got your own examples of government waste. The decline of legal aid is unlikely to be reversed in the near future, and not by a different government. I've looked at the manifestos, and none of the main parties has committed to reversing the cuts of the last few years. There will be a decade of financial turbulence if you specialise in areas funded by legal aid. There is likely to be an increase in pro bono work, as has been mentioned, but beware exploitation. I don't know of many other professions where you are expected to work for free because people can't afford your fees or indeed any fees. Paralegals too will need career paths, maybe as legal executives. But even if they become fully qualified, the market is unlikely to pay them what they deserve. And the market may not pay you what you deserve because of the downward pressure. And beware the idea that because you are a legal executive, as opposed to, say, a barrister or a solicitor in a city firm, that you should be so cheap that you're not getting what you ought to be paid. There's no cutting corners there. If you ever get downhearted, don't forget how admired British lawyers are overseas. In the current international situation, where citizens of new and unstable nations cry out for legal protection, whereas you saw in the newspapers this morning, people put their lives at risk on the sea because their own countries have no legal system, no respect for the rule of law. They are grateful to the UK legal system for support, and because we are a model to other countries of independence and integrity of law. British lawyers have a spirit of fearlessness and democracy, which will continue to serve us all well in the next few years of upheaval. I wish you all good luck, and I hope you can serve the public in the many and diverse ways that you want to and deserve to. And I look forward to seeing you in positions of great authority in the future, somewhat higher up, I hope, than David Beckham, myself, and Anne Widdecombe. Thank you.